Hello, welcome back to my channel. This is yours truly, 50 only. I'm going to be doing another episode of House of Payne. How's everybody doing? So I'm going to be doing episode 4. It is called Back That Thing Up. Now, what I've noticed, I don't know if you guys have noticed as well, but I purchased the full season and I noticed that there's an episode that's missing, and I believe it was the one, like, it completely is not on the set at all, but they showed it on TV. And I believe it was the one when Aunt Ella, was diagnosed. She had the cells in her breast that they thought may have been cancerous, and they weren't. But there was another episode that they did that on back in the old House of Payne episodes, and that was actually when JANINE found out she was pregnant that particular time. So I just wanted to make note of that because I think the numbers of the videos are off. So I'm just going to talk about it as they mentioned it. It is according to the ones that I purchased. Episode 4 is called Back That Thing Up. So let's get right into the episode. So it starts off with Floyd and Aunt Ella are in the kitchen. Now, what I'm going to do with this episode, and I'm gonna see how it flows. I don't want to necessarily go scene by scene, but I just want to kind of overall talk about the important things about the episode. So in the beginning, Floyd is helping Aunt Ella put these shelves up in her bedroom. He's and we see already that Uncle Curtis is not there. He's away. And so Floyd tells Aunt Ella that he has to take CJ to the doctors about his back, because remember, CJ hurt his back through the accident. So he told Calvin to go ahead and work on the shelves for him. So then when CJ and Floyd come back, CJ's struggling to walk. You can tell that he's in a lot of pain. And he talks about how he went to go see this herbalist for his back. The herbalist is a chiropractor, but he's also an herbalist, and he believes in naturopathic medication. So he talks about how he got this ointment that helps with the pain that he's experiencing in his back. So CJ tells Aunt Ella that his regular physician wants him to have surgery, but he wants to do the alternative route. And he talks about yoga, he talks about strength training, and he also tells Aunt Ella about this friend named Marcus who went out of the country to get some shots and told CJ that this really helped him. So the other thing that happened in the show is that when Floyd took CJ to the doctors and they were coming back, he had the window open. So Calvin left his tablet in the car, CJ left his herbs in the car, and apparently the package of fabric that Aunt Ella wanted for the shelves was also in the car. And so he apparently left the window down, and the car was broken into, and all those things were stolen. And also Floyd's Johnny Taylor, whoever that is, tapes were also taken. So he did file a police report, and he was really upset. Everybody was upset, and everybody was blaming Floyd for the break-in because they felt like he was being irresponsible, and he left the window open because he was saying he couldn't breathe from the smell of the ointment that CJ had on. So CJ's out back stretching, and he can't get up, and Calvin's like asking him, is he okay? And he's like, no, I was supposed to be up from now, but I can't get up. So when Calvin helps him up, he encourages him to go to the doctors. And while he's saying that, Marcus calls CJ and tells him that, he's partially paralyzed from this. So basically what he's saying is that this ointment didn't really work. Like, it helped him a little bit initially, but then it just started not working. So CJ talks about how he doesn't want to go to the doctors because it's like shooting dice. He also talks about his trepidation or his uncertainty about the doctors because he feels like, the history of black men and going to the black men in America, just going to the doctors and just the things that have happened in the past made him really skeptical. And I want to touch on a couple things that he mentioned. He talked about the Tuskegee Experiment. He also talked about Henrietta Lacks. And I just want to point out, and I think it's great that they are bringing attention to healthcare and black men, because we hear a lot about black women in healthcare, but we really don't hear much about black men in healthcare in the media. And I just want to talk a little bit about the things that he mentioned. He talked about the Tuskegee Experiment. And for those of you that aren't familiar with the Tuskegee Experiment, so in 1932, there was a study done to record the natural history of syphilis. And the study involved, there were 600 black men, 399 with syphilis, 201 who did not have the disease. They did not get consent from these participants. So they were using these black men without their knowledge. Researchers told the men they were being treated for what's called bad blood, which was the term they used back then to describe several different things like syphilis, anemia, and fatigue. So in exchange for participating, what they offered these men, they offered them free medical exams, free meals, and burial insurance. That was it. So by 1943, so we're talking over 10 years, penicillin was the treatment of choice for syphilis. But those black men that participated in this study, they weren't offered this treatment. So it wasn't until 1973 that they were allowed necessary medical care for anybody that survived the study. So that was the one thing that he mentioned. The other thing that he mentioned was Henrietta Lacks. So Henrietta Lacks was a black woman who was from Maryland, actually. And she died of cervical cancer in 1951. So what happened with her was she went to Johns Hopkins Hospital, which is a very prestigious hospital in Maryland, which is where I live. And she's told by the doctors when she initially goes in that she's fine. But then eventually they find out, because she's not doing any better, she's diagnosed with cervical cancer and she's treated with radiation. So there was a doctor during that time by the name of Dr. George Gay, who worked at Hopkins, and he was trying to create a breed of human cells that could regenerate eternally. Like they could just go on and on and on. So like an immortal cell line, but had no success until he was given a sample of Henrietta's cervical tissue by her doctors without her knowledge or consent. So she was being used as some type of project, and she was still alive at this time. She was being used as a project for them to create these cells. She had no idea, nor did her family know. And so those cells begin to grow at an extraordinarily large or quick rate. And, while Henrietta is slowly dying, these cells are slowly recreating. And Dr. Gay starts publicizing these cells, and he calls them HeLa. And the reason why he called them HeLa is because he didn't want anybody to know where they came from. So he sent them to many researchers around the world. And so at this time, the doctors pronounced this tumor that Henrietta has is like, we can't operate on it. And she ends up dying in September of that year, 1951. But then what makes it even worse is that the doctors begin to pressure her husband into allowing them to autopsy her and further study her cells. And so Gila continues to thrive in creating like a polio vaccine. They're used to study viruses, those cells, human genetics, drugs, vitamins. I mean, and to this day, her cells are still being used for research. So then these journalists write this article about her and call her by a different name, Helen Lane, because again, they didn't want her family to know that they were using her cells. And it was just a lot of really bad racial practices done back then and even now. I mean, so I just wanted to point those out, just because he mentioned them, and then you can see that how both of those situations were really not in the favor of the black people that were used. So I also want to talk about a study. There was a study done at the University of Michigan. There was an article written about it. It was in 2011, where there was 105 black men. They were middle-aged, married black men in the Midwest. They did a study on them of why they didn't go to the doctors. And there was 14 focus groups that they used. Some of the men said that they were afraid to go, with little explanation. They didn't really go into why. They didn't really explain it, which makes you wonder, why are they afraid to talk about it? When they did go to the doctor, some of them said they were uncomfortable with the tone of the doctor, the way they spoke to them. And then they said that the provider made recommendations but offered the men very little useful information. So they were giving them information, but it wasn't anything that they felt could really help them. And on how to make lifestyle and behavior changes. So the only reason that they actually began to listen was because of their spouses. It had nothing to do with the doctors. So what they found was the only reason, or the only thing that would cause these men to actually go to the doctors or get medical tests done or get blood work done was because of the influence of their spouse. So it had nothing to do with the medical team at all. So it just goes to show you, I just wanted to talk about, like, what CJ was saying was very true, and there's evidence to back up what he is saying. So I just really thought this was a great episode, and that they brought attention to black men and the healthcare world. So back to the show. Floyd was in his feelings and felt no one was considering his loss, so then everybody apologized to him. CJ then decides to go get the surgery done. Aunt Ella painted the shelves. Calvin got his tablet back. Calvin brought Floyd another Johnny Taylor tape from everybody, just to kind of make up for the loss of the tapes that he had. So overall, like I said, I thought the show was really, really good. I enjoyed it. I thought it was great, the attention that they brought to it. And let me know what you think. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know if you enjoyed the way that I commented. I didn't go through scene by scene. I just, kind of wanted to give my takeaway from it. So I will see you all in the next video. Thank you and have a great day.